about Steven Pinker last night.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, because it inspired me not only to look into linguistics but also into psychology. So I guess it's a very good thing that I was asked to deliver to classes on Pinker's book because it inspired me to look deeper into the connection between linguistics and cognitive linguistics, yeah, or in this case, psychology.
All right, so without further ado, the class is yours, Bu Ika.
Thank you very much, Ibu Ransi. Yeah, once again, I'd like to thank Ibu Ransi and Fakultas Sastra UM for this wonderful opportunity to share and also to discuss about linguistics based on Pinker's wonderful and inspiring work, yeah, the language instinct. And I'm happy to see that all of you are ready this morning to discuss and to share more about linguistics, yeah, based on Pinker's works. Yeah. Without further ado, I'd like to share my slide this morning. Oh, Bu Rensi, could you, well,
Oh
I'd like,
yes, I forgot to do that. A second, Bu Ika. Okay, now should be fine.
yes, it's great. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, it works wonderfully now. Okay, so this is the topic of our discussion this morning. We will discuss more about the connection of language and mind. But this morning we will compare what Pinker and Chomsky think about the connection between language and mind. So let us see what the two of them think about language and mind. Okay. So according to Pinker, yeah, language is an instinct, as you have read in his book. Yeah. Based on Pinker, language is an instinct. It is a product of evolution to solve problems of communication among humans at the phase of hunter-gatherers. Yeah, I assume that you are all familiar with with the phases of human development, and at one point, human was at the phase of hunter-gatherers. In that, human started to hunt for food and also to gather for food. According to Pinker, this was the start for human to develop means to communicate, and therefore, because of the need to communicate during the phase of hunter-gatherer, then human developed an instinct for language as a product of evolution because they needed to communicate with one another. So this is basically the premise of Stephen Pinker's um, theory, in that language is related to evolution, in that it was a trait developed by human because they needed language to communicate with one another. So this is the premise of Stephen Pinker. Uh, Let us see now the similarity between Chomsky and Pinker. So as you already know, Noam Chomsky, a linguist from MIT in the United States, he revolutionized the understanding of language by arguing that children are innately predisposed to learn language. So according to Chomsky, all children are born innately, yeah, or ready to learn language because of their design. Yeah, so based on Chomsky, all children are born ready to learn language, and therefore all humans possess universal grammar, a template for language acquisition. Okay, so this is the premise of Chomsky, in that all children are born with universal grammar, and this innate grammar enables human to acquire language easily. Okay. Based on Pinker, so now we will discuss Pinker's idea in connection with Chomsky's idea. So Chomsky is a linguist, but Pinker, he's also a cognitive psychologist. Beside being linguist, he is a cognitive psychologist, and this greatly influences his theory on the innateness of human language. Pinker was obviously influenced by Chomsky, and therefore he explored how the mind created language, and agreed, he agreed that humans are innately predisposed to learn language. Yeah. So this is the similarity between Chomsky's and Pinker's theories on the innateness of language, or the universal grammar. Okay, so again, this is the similarity of their theory on the innate knowledge of grammar, in that babies or children are born innately predisposed to acquire language. Okay, now what about the differences between Pinker and Chomsky's theories? Because Pinker is a cognitive psychologist, I just explained that in addition of being a linguist, Stephen Pinker is also a cognitive psychologist. Therefore, Pinker views language as an evolutionary adaptation. Okay. Thus, according to Pinker, language is not learned. It is a human biological adaptation to communicate information. So based on Pinker, language is connected to evolution, in that human adapted biologically to communicate information using language. On the other hand, Chomsky is skeptical that natural selection provides an adequate explanation. Okay, so if Pinker relates language with evolution, Chomsky is skeptical that natural selection provides an explanation on the innateness of grammatical knowledge. Yeah. Okay, so this is again the difference between Pinker's theory and Chomsky's theory on universal grammar. Pinker relates that to evolution, while Chomsky is skeptical about the connection between language and evolution. Okay, so let us go back to Pinker once again. You might notice that Pinker mentioned mentally several times. So in his book, Pinker mentioned mentally several times. And mentally, according to him, is the language knowledge in human mind. Every one of us, we possess or we have mentalies, the language knowledge in our mind. Okay. Knowing language is translating the mentalies into speech. So if we know a language, we can translate the language knowledge, the abstract knowledge in our mind, the competence into speech or performance. Okay. Again, every human being has mentalities, the language knowledge in our mind. But then we have to know, we have to be exposed to a language so that we are able to translate these mentalities into speech. This is also in line with the theory of linguistics proposed by the founder of linguistics, Ferdinand de Saussure. As I mentioned last week, Saussure proposed that language consists of force, competence. This is the ability to use language in our mind, and performance, which is the product of language, like speech that we produce and that we let others to know. Yeah. So Saussure's ideas are in line with Pinker's ideas that each of us has a mental language in our mind. But then we cannot use this mental, we cannot use the competence of language unless we know we have to be exposed to a certain form of language. By language, then we can translate the mentalities, the competence in performance or speech. Okay. Um, the process is natural for human because of the rules of the grammar that human possesses. Okay, so again, mentalist is in line with Saussure's theory of competence, and speech is in line with performance. Okay, so again, um, uh, Saussure's ideas, are in line with modern theories of linguistics. We will continue now with, again, we are back to universal grammar, the UG. By now, you are very familiar with universal grammar. Yeah, these are the super rules, sets of rules that govern how sounds can form words. Words can form phrases, and phrases can form sentences. Okay, so again, the UG are sets of rules, and the rules govern how sounds can form words, words can form phrases, and phrases can form sentences. I'm sure by now you are familiar on how sounds combine themselves to form words with set of rules. Yeah. Okay, so the UG or universal grammar allow the human brain to use a finite set of words in the mental lexicon to form an infinite number of novel utterances and understand sentences never before heard. Okay, so by having universal grammar in our head, in our brain, then we can use a finite set of words in our mental lexicon to form or to produce infinite number of utterances and understand sentences. Okay, so although, for example, we only have 26 phonemes in Indonesian. I'm not sure if that's correct, but then each language has limited um, collections of phonemes. Each language has limited collection of vowels and consonants. But then because we have universal grammar in our head, we can use the limited or the finite set of sounds to form infinite number of words and sentences. Yeah, that's why a human being can talk for hours, combining set of words in his or her language to form infinite number, yeah, of utterances. Okay, so this is again the premise of the universal grammar as sets of rules governing the use of language, the combination of sounds, words, and phrases to form infinite number of utterances and understanding sentences. Okay, yeah. So again, yeah, this universal grammar exists because human language is not formed in chain-like patterns. Instead, language is formed in tree-like patterns. I'm sure by now you are familiar with the syntactic tree. Yeah, so the tree-like patterns of human language um, enable us to form infinite number of utterances and sentences. Yeah, words form phrases, and phrases can be nested one inside the other in an infinite number of ways. Yeah. Okay, the system of patterns is called the X bar system. So again, this is Chomsky's original theory, the X bar system. Such commonalities are found in all human languages, but not in music or computer-based languages. Okay, again, according to universal grammar, human language is formed in tree-like patterns, as you observe while you make a syntactic tree. Yeah, with tree-like patterns, we can nest, yeah, or we can insert phrases one inside the other, and therefore we can make infinite number of speeches or sentences. Yeah. Okay, so this tree-like pattern based on Chomsky is called the X-bar system. The X-bar system, and this is found in human languages, in all human languages, but not in music or computer-based languages. So let us see now with the we will review the principles of X-bar theory. I'm sure that you are familiar with this, yeah. So according to the principles of X-bar theory, all phrases are constructed according to the same principles. Okay, so all phrases or XPs are constructed according to the same principles. First, they are projections of a head of some syntactic category. Yeah, verb, noun, adjective, preposition, adverb, determiner, yeah, inflection, yeah, or complement. So again, all phrases are projections of a head of some syntactic category. This is the example. We can have adverb phrase by having an adverb head, very hard, for example, and then okay, sorry, this is supposed to be adjective phrase, yeah, because the head is an adjective, yeah, hard. So this is adjective phrase. Uh, the head is adjective. Next, we have adverbial phrase. The head is adverb. So we have to slowly, yeah, and slowly is the head of the phrase. That's why the phrase is called adverbial phrase because the head is an adverb. Yeah, and then we have prepositional phrase. In that the head is a preposition for fun, yeah. Next, we have noun phrase. The head is a noun, in this case, idea, yeah. And the last one, we have a verb phrase. The head is the verb read, yeah. So we have the phrase read books. This is a verb phrase. Okay, next, yeah. Okay, so we will now discuss again about head. Yeah. Okay, so based on X-bar theory, yeah, each phrase have three levels of projection. First is the head. Yeah, the head is symbolized as X. Yeah, a head is the lowest or zero level of projection, which lends its features to the whole XP. Its features are lexical, noun, verb, and or functional, person, number, or gender. Okay, so you see again that each phrase has a head, and the head is the lowest or the zero level of projection. So you see that the head slowly here is the lowest level of projection. And the head lends its feature to the whole XP because the head is an adverb. So the phrase is, or the X is adverbial phrase. Okay. These features are lexical or functional. So this is again, yeah, head, yeah, based on the principles of X-bar theory. Okay, and then the next, yeah, beside the head of the phrase, we also have what we call with specifier. So the second principle of X-bar theory in that each projection, yeah, has a recursive intermediate level. You see here, this is the intermediate level, yeah. Here, I'm sorry, this is the intermediate level, yeah, and it may be sister to the specifier or spec of the XP. Yeah. You can see here, this is what we call with, this is the specifier, yeah, and you have here verb and, sorry, you have here the verb and the determiner phrase, yeah, choose gum, and this will create the intermediate projection, yeah, the intermediate level, which then will combine with the specifier John. Yeah, so John is the specifier, and then this is the intermediate level, yeah, and the intermediate level has consists of a verb and DP, determiner phrase. Yeah. Okay, so the specifier and the intermediate level results on the maximal projection. Yeah, So the VP or verb phrase here is the phrasal or the maximal level, the maximal projection. This one. Sorry, this one. Yeah. So this one is the maximal projection. Okay. So again, this is the expert theory, which dictates that every phrase consists of the head, yeah, the head, yeah, of a phrase. Yeah, this is the head of the verb phrase is choose, yeah, the verb, and then sorry, oh yes, yes, please ask a question, yeah, if you are not sure about something, yeah, or if you have any question, please interrupt me. Feel free to interrupt me and then ask a question. Okay. You can also use chats, yeah, if you. I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Yeah. Okay. So you can also use our chat, yeah, if you feel that it is more convenient for you to ask question, yeah. Okay, so I repeat once again that each phrase, yeah, consists of a head. So each phrase has a head. So a verb phrase has a verb as its head. And then each phrase also consists of intermediate level. This is the intermediate level, yeah. And then the intermediate level will be a sister to the specifier. This is the specifier. And in the end, they will construct a phrasal or maximal level. This is the phrasal or the maximal level. So this is the X-bar theory proposed by Chomsky to illustrate the universal grammar. He proposed that every language has this X-bar theory. Yeah. And this also proves that human language is structured in a tree-like structure, not chain-like, but tree-like. With this tree-like structure, it is possible to insert or to nest a phrase inside another phrase. Yeah. Okay, just like this. Yeah. So you see that in this fourth phrase, we have a DP or determiner phrase nested inside the verb phrase. Okay, so this is a proof of a tree-like structure that that produces in the end, yeah, infinite number of utterances and sentences. Okay. Before I continue, you have any questions about the expert theory? Yeah, so far. Mm-hmm. Okay. Questions if you want. Oh yes, please. Yeah. Who is this? Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I cannot see the whole students. Yeah, in my computer.
I'm Aprilia Ranantias, and I will ask about mentalism.
Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead.
Do children already have mentalism inside them?
Yes, yeah. So, a very good question, Aprilia. According to Pinker, yeah, each child is born with a mentalist, yeah. So each human child is born with a mentalist, knowledge of language in their mind that will help them to acquire language. Yeah. So yes, yeah, you are correct. Based on Pinker's theory, each child is born with a mentalist. I will repeat again the mentalist. Yeah. So Aprilia asked, yeah. So each baby is born with a mentalist. This is in line with the theory of Chomsky, in that every human being is born with an innate knowledge of language, that is present in our brain. So with this innate knowledge, then it is possible with this mentalists. It makes it easier for us to translate this knowledge into language. So it's easier for human to acquire or to learn language because we have a predisposed knowledge of language called mentalist. That. Yes, so you are correct. And again, this is also in line with Ferdinand de Saussure's theory. As you know, that he is the founder of linguistics. And he proposed the theory of competence, in that each human being has a competence of language in their mind. And this then can be realized in the real world by utterances, and we call these utterances as performance, based on social theory. Okay, thank you, Aprilia. I hope that this answers your question. That's a very good question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Questions, Aprilia?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome, Aprilia. I will now go to the the GP structure. You showed same as NP. Okay, so I will go back to the GP structure. Well, that's a very good question. Is the GP actually the NP? Right. So basically, GP and NP are not different. Why these three use GP? It's because based on some linguists work. So there are linguists who use NP. There are also those who use GP. GP is from determiner phrase. Because why some linguists use GP instead of NP? It's because noun is usually accompanied by determiner in English, such as a, an, the article. So based on this, then some syntacticians use GP instead of NP. But in spirit, GP and NP are the same. Okay. That's a very good question. And also very observant. So thank you again for Zahira. Okay. Thank you again. So again, to clarify, GP and NP are in spirit the same. It's just some syntacticians prefer to use the term GP because its noun is usually a noun in English, is accompanied by a determiner, and the, for example. And this also happens in other languages. Okay, next question maybe. Okay, otherwise I will continue. You might want to save your question about the X bar, Okay, so we will continue now with universal grammar. Okay, so universal grammar functions as an archetype across humans. So UG function like a blueprint of sorts underlies all human languages. All languages have things that can sensibly be called subjects, objects, and verbs. And these categories operate according to rule govern patterns. So based on UG, human languages actually have the same blueprint. Yeah. So there is a blueprint that underlies all human languages. Yeah. For example, according to universal grammar, yeah, all languages have what we can call with subject, object, and verbs. Okay, and the subjects, objects, and verbs operate according to rule governed patterns. Yeah. Okay, so again, I will repeat that according to universal grammar, all human languages operate based on the same blueprint. Yeah, blueprint. For example, all languages have subjects, objects, and verbs, which operate based on rule governed patterns. Yeah. Let us see the example of this. Yeah. Okay. So, for example, according to language typology, we have word order. So because of the premise that each language has subject, verb, and objects, so we have variation, yeah, of the order of subject, object, verb. Okay, so again, I will repeat that according to the blueprint of language or the universal grammar, each language has subject, verb, and object. But then there are variations based on the order of the subject, verb, object in a sentence. Yeah. Okay. So again, there is a blueprint of languages, but then in realization, there are variations. For example, the blueprint dictates that each language has subject, verb, object, but then there are variations of how subject, verb, object are ordered in a sentence. For example, we have the order of subject, object, verb, she, him, loves, for example, and this makes up to 45% of the human language, just like Latin, Japanese, yeah, Korean, yeah, those are subject, object, verb language. So the order of the subject verb is SOV. Okay, and then our language, Indonesian, belongs to the subject, verb, object classification. Yeah. So in Indonesian, we will say saya makan sate and not saya sate makan because of this subject, verb, object, word order. Yeah. It's also so English, Cantonese, French, and Italian. Yeah, they also have SVO. Yeah, and the SVO languages make up to 42% of the world's languages. And then we have rarer word orders, yeah, such as VSO, VOS, OVS, and OSV. So again, yeah, the blueprint or the universal grammar, yeah, dictates that all languages should have a subject or object, but there are variations in the order of subject or object. So languages vary in that way. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so let us see now one of the example of the variation of word orders in Korean and English. Yeah, let us see now with English. Maru eats breakfast. So you see here that English has SVO order. So Maru is subject, eats is a verb, and breakfast is an object. Yeah. But then Korean has SOV, word order. Yeah, I'm sorry, my Korean is rusty, but I'm trying to read this Hangul. Yeah, so this is Maruka Achimel Mokkoyo. Yeah. again, sorry for those who speak Korean. My Korean is rusty. I haven't used it for years. So we will see here that Maru is the subject. You see here the subject marker ka. Yeah, this is ka is subject marker in Korean. So we are sure that Maru here is the subject. And then this one, achim, yeah, achim or breakfast is the object. And we see here the object marker o. Yeah. So o is an object marker in Korean. So we are sure that achim or breakfast is the object. And then we have the verb here, mokkoyo. Yeah, this is mok is the verb, and then oyo is the honorific marker. So we see that English has a different word order than Korean. Yeah, and this is very important for those who learn a new language, because this is the first indication if you have understood, yeah, the structure, the basic structure of the language. Okay, so again, I repeat that this is one of the examples of the blueprint in that English and Korean has English and Korean have subject, object, as have subject, verb, object. So both English and Korean demonstrate that the languages have subject, verb, object as indicates by the universal grammar that we have a blueprint. But then there is a variation, yeah. The order of the subject, verb, and object varies according to the language. In English, it is subject, verb, object. In Korean, is subject, object, verb. Yeah. Okay. So now we have seen the subject, verb, object variations. Yeah. We also, so according to the universal grammar, yeah, each language has rules on how words combine into phrases and phrases into sentences. We call this the phrase structure rules. So every language has its own phrase structure rules. So for example, here in Indonesian, to make a sentence, you can combine noun phrase with the following phrase. So in Indonesian, to make a sentence, you can combine noun phrase with verb phrase, another noun phrase, prepositional phrase, and adjectival phrase. And then to make a noun phrase in Indonesian, you can combine noun, adjective phrase, yeah, in this case, and determiner, yeah. And then to make adjective phrase, you can have adjective. To make a verb phrase, you can combine verb with noun phrase and a prepositional phrase. And to make a prepositional phrase, you can combine a preposition with a noun phrase. Yeah. Okay. In English, to make a sentence, you can combine noun phrase with verb phrase, just like in Indonesian. But English doesn't combine noun phrase with another noun phrase, with a prepositional phrase, with adjective phrase to make a sentence. Yeah. And then in English, you have a noun phrase if you can combine determiner, adjective phrase with noun. In Indonesian, the order is reversed. You have noun and then determiner. Yeah. Okay. So this is the example of the phrase structure rules in Indonesian and English. Yeah. So the blueprint is the same, but then the phrase structure rules vary based on the languages. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this will help a lot for those who study new languages as I pointed out before, in that it will help you to understand more of the structure of the human language. Okay, so again, this is the phrase structure rules. Each language has phrase structure rules, but then the rules vary based on the languages. Again, and for example, in Indonesian, the phrase structure rules for noun phrase is determiner, adjective phrase, and noun. In Indonesian, the phrase structure rule for noun phrase is noun, adjective phrase, and then followed by a determiner. Okay, so this is the phrase structure rules. Okay, and then again about the blueprint of a language. So languages can be left branching or right branching. So there are directions of branching of language. Yeah. So this is, for example, in English, the branching direction is head plus modifier, verb object. Yeah, for example, verb object, preposition, noun, noun genitive, auxiliary verb. Yeah, and then noun relative, and then adjective, yeah, and complement, noun, adjective. So this is the branching direction in English, in that they have head plus modifier. And then in Japanese, the branching is modifier plus head, yeah, modifier plus head. This is the example, yeah. I don't speak Japanese, yeah, so I might make mistakes on the pronunciation. This is tegami o kaku, yeah. So you have letter, right, yeah. So again, Japanese has SOV, like Korean, yeah. Japanese is an SOV language. So instead of kaku tegami, you have tegami o kaku, yeah. So letter, right, yeah. So object verb. They also have noun plus postposition. So they don't have preposition, but they have postposition. Yeah. Ie kara. Again, I'm sorry for the pronunciation. Yeah, I don't speak Japanese. Yeah. Ie kara. So you have home from. Yeah. Okay. Home from. And then genitive plus noun. Yeah. Kakusei nohon. Yeah. Student book, yeah, which is the student's book. Yeah, so this is the example. Yeah, in English, it's the opposite, yeah, because English has preposition plus noun, verb plus object. Yeah. Okay, so the branching in English is the opposite of the branching direction in Japanese. Okay, but you can see here that both English and Japanese, they have the same lexical categories. They have verb, object, they have preposition, noun, yeah, auxiliary, genitive, yeah, adjective, complement, yeah. So that's those are the blueprint of languages, but then the realization in each language varies, yeah. So English is head modifier, verb object. Japanese is object verb, yeah, or modifier plus head. Okay. Okay. So far, you have any questions about the universal grammar? Yeah. Feel free to type in the chat if you have any questions. Yeah. If you don't have any question now, then you can ask at the end of this lecture. Okay. Okay. So Pinker then concluded that languages are alike at the deepest structural levels. So based on Pinker, languages are all alike at the deepest structural levels, and the differences between the languages are superficial. Yeah. the variation is superficial. So this is the premise of Pinker's theory that language knowledge is innate. Yeah, in that languages are all alike, yeah, at the deepest structural levels, and the variation is only superficial. Okay, so now we will look at the morphological typology. Okay, so this is also again, yeah, I took this example to show you, to show you that this is also an evidence of the universal grammar. Yeah, so based on morphological typology, each language has singular and plural forms. Yeah, so all languages have something similar to singular and plural forms. Yeah, so you see here, Japanese, Tagalog, Turkish, English, and Malay, they all show singular and plural forms, but the form, the form of the plural forms vary based on the language. For example, you will see here Japanese, yeah, hito, the plural is hito, yeah, and then Tagalog, bato, yeah, plural becomes pega bato, yeah, with function word, and then Turkish f, and then if we add affix slur, it becomes houses, yeah, okay, and then sound change, yeah, man, and also in Arabic, yeah, you have a sound change, yeah, to indicate plural, and then the duplication in Malay, yeah, we have here anak, anak-anak. Yeah. So these are the examples of how language has all singular and plural forms, but then the forms vary based on the languages. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I purposely, yeah, will show you on how our linguistic ability is a uniquely human trait. Yeah, I will show you more examples after this. Okay, though researchers have attempted to show that chimpanzees can learn language, Pinker exposes its study as flawed. So I will show you one of uh, one of the researchers, one of the studies that tried to prove that chimpanzees could learn language. Yeah. Okay, so I will show you. This is first, I'm going to show you what chimpanzees can do. So wild chimps communicate 19 specific messages to one another with a lexicon of 66 gestures. So again, wild chimps can communicate with 19 specific messages with a lexicon of 66 gestures. Yeah, but then the message is limited to response, yeah, to natural stimulus. Is the example? For example, this is a gesture that a chimpanzee made to show that the chimp, yeah, wanted the friend to groom at this area, yeah, to look for ticks at this area. And then if a chimpanzee mother, yeah, shows the sole of the foot to another, it means that the mother would like someone to climb onto her back. Yeah, so this is, so when a chimp's mother makes this gesture, yeah, showing the sole of the foot to her baby, then she will like to indicate the baby to climb onto her back. Yeah, so you see that the messages that the chimp made, they are fairly limited, only responding to natural stimulus, yeah, or indicating the other to do something that they want, yeah. Okay, so this is language in wild animals. Again, they only have specific or limited messages to convey, and they also have limited lexicon in the form of gestures or body language. Okay, okay, and then I'm not sure if you have heard about this research, but then there was a research in Columbia University in New York. Yeah, this research was called the Project NIM. Yeah, so a chimpanzee named Nim Chimpsky. Yeah, the name, as you see, yeah, was inspired by Noam Chomsky. Yeah? So this chimp was named Nim Chimpsky, as inspired by Noam Chomsky. Yeah, Noam Chomsky. Okay, so Terrace, a psychologist from Columbia University, wanted to disprove Chomsky's theory and show that a chimpanzee could develop real language. Yeah, so this psychologist from Columbia University in New York, yeah, he would like to disprove, yeah, or to refute Chomsky's theory. He would like to show that animals such as chimpanzee could also develop real language. Yeah. Okay, so then a baby chimp was taken when still as a newborn. Yeah, so a baby was taken, yeah, baby chimp, and then it was named Chimsky based on Noam Chomsky, and then he was immersed to live with a human family. So he lived with a human family, and he was treated like a human. Yeah. So as you see here, the baby had a car seat, you know, and then it was raised by this woman, yeah, and like a baby human, yeah, and then was taught American Sign Language. So this is the premise of the research. In that, Harris would like to disprove Chomsky's theory about humans' innateness, yeah, of language knowledge. Yeah. Okay, so he placed a chimpanzee named Nim Chimpsky in a human family, and chimpanzee was raised since he was a small baby, yeah, as a human being, yeah, and was taught American Sign Language. Okay, so I will continue, yeah. During his life, yeah, Nim learned about 125 signs, yeah. But then the questions remain: was he really learning language? Was he really learning language? Yeah. Apparently, Terrace then said that no, yeah. So Terrace, the psychologist responsible for this research, said that while watching a video of Nim signing, yeah, using American Sign Language with a teacher, he realized that the chimp was tracking most of his teacher's sign, imitating most of them, but he almost never made a sign spontaneously. Yeah. So the Nim could imitate sign language, but then he almost never made a sign spontaneously. In the end, Terrace came to believe that Chomsky was right, that Nim would never use language the way humans do. Yeah. So in the end, Terrace believed that Chomsky was right, yeah, that Nim would never use language the way humans do to form sentences and express ideas. Okay, so again, this proves that language, yeah, the ability to use language is the sole property, is unique to humankind. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I will show you now about the case of language deprivation. What is this? Yeah. So sometimes there are cases of children who do not get exposure of language because the children are abandoned or are deprived of human contacts and also language exposure. This is a case of a child that suffered such fate in 1970. So Jeannie was an American child. So Jeannie suffered physical and social restriction. Jeannie was a real person. Yeah. So uh, when she was a child, she was neglected. So she was neglected in that first year. Yeah, she suffered physical and social restriction. She also suffered from nutritional neglect and extreme experiential deprivation. Yeah, there is evidence that from about the age of 20 months until 13. Yeah. So from the age of 20 months to 13 years old before she was found and admitted to the hospital, yeah, Jeannie had been isolated in a small closed room. So she was mostly kept in a small closed room. And then she had little or very rare physical and social contacts with other human beings. Yeah, she was uh, hurriedly fed only with cereal and baby food, and minimally cared for by her mother. Yeah, so she received only minimal care, and she was fed only with cereal and baby food. Yeah. So she received very minimal contact with other human being. Yeah, she only fed. She was only fed and minimally touched by her mother. Yeah. The door to her room was kept closed, and the windows were curtained. Okay, so she was deprived of physical and social contacts with any human being. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay, so among the grammatical structures, so after she was found, so when she was 13 years old, she was rescued. So again, Jeannie received none to minimal contact, physical or social contact with other human beings. But then when she was 13 years old, the authority found out about her case. So she was rescued and then brought to the hospital. And she was also treated by a team of linguists from the UCLA, yeah? UCLA in the United States, yeah. And then Jeannie was taught language because Jeannie could not speak. She couldn't use language. She couldn't understand language. So she had to be taught language from zero. Yeah. Okay. So after a year or two, yeah, um, Jeannie started to comprehend grammatical structures. So among the grammatical structures that Jeannie now comprehends are singular and plural contrasts of nouns, yeah, negative, affirmative, sentence distinction, possessive constructions, modification, and a number of prepositions, including under, next to, beside, over, and probably, on and in, conjunction with and the comparative and superlative forms of adjectives. Okay, so you have to remember that Jeannie didn't have any exposure to language at all, yeah, from the age of 20 months to 13 years old. So she was deprived of any linguistic exposure. She had no exposure at all to language use. But then you can see here that only after 1 or 2 years of language instruction, Jeannie started to have knowledge on grammatical structures. She could understand, she could comprehend sentences with singular and plural contrast. She could also understand negative sentences. Yeah, she could tell the difference between negative and affirmative sentences. She could also use possessive constructions. For example, like my book, for example. She can also modify sentences. She knows also how to use prepositions, conjunctions. Yeah, she also knows how to do comparison and how to form superlative with adjectives. You see that this is actually quite miraculous. And if you compare Jeannie's development with that of Nim Chimpsky, you will see that as a human being, Jeannie progressed. Jeannie showed remarkable progression by understanding the grammatical structures, while as you observe in the case of Nim Chimpsky, Nim was taught sign language from the day he was born and brought by Columbia University's psychologists. But then up to the end of his life, he only learned 125 signs. Yeah. So again, if we compare Nim and Jeannie's case here, you will see that human being actually has a predisposed knowledge of language. And although a child, as you see in Jeannie's case here, was severely neglected and received no exposure of language knowledge, the child could somehow keep up with this, although of course there were impairments, but then Jeannie showed miraculous understanding of human language by showing understanding on the structures of human language. Yeah. So this again shows that language is a unique trait of the humankind. Yeah. Okay, and let's see. What about Jeannie's speech production? There has been dramatic improvement in Jeannie's speech production. Yeah, for example, she could articulate glottal, like glottal stop, and then glottal fricative, for example, and her phonological development does not deviate sharply from that observed in normal children. In addition, at that time, she began, both in imitations and in spontaneous utterances to show some intonation. And her speech is now being produced with greater intensity. Again, this is a miraculous development because she was deprived of any linguistic or language exposure from 20 months up to 13 years old. Okay, so of course, Jeannie showed signs of language impairment. So this is the comparison between Jeannie's ability and normal children. So Jeannie's performance on the active and passive comprehension test appears to deviate from that of normal children. So she had difficulties in using and comprehend active passive voice. Yeah, and I think yeah, I mean this doesn't deviate a lot, yeah, from normal children. Yeah, so Ginny could not understand the use of active and passive. Yeah, but then normal children at her age, of course, they're already fluent in using active and passive. Yeah. Okay, and then Ginny's linguistic competence, yeah, her grammar, many ways on a par with a 2 or 2.5 year old child. Yeah, so although at the time of the research, yeah, so Ginny was found around 1970, and then she received language instruction for around 2 years when this research was published. Yeah, when the result of the research on Ginny was published. Yeah, so in about 2 years of language instruction, Ginny's linguistic competence, the grammar, was on par or was similar with a 2 or 2.5 year old child. So as you see here, oh sorry, we'll go back again. So as you see here, okay, so as you see here, just like a 2 or 3 years old child, yeah, Ginny comprehends a singular, plural, contrast of nouns, negative, affirmative sentence, yeah, possessive construction, prepositions, and conjunctions. And she can also use comparative and superlative forms of adjectives. Yeah. And then in speech, she can use, for example, she can produce glottal articulations, and she and her phonological and her phonological development does not deviate sharply from that in normal children. Okay, so I guess that will be. I guess we still have like 10 minutes left. Yeah. And then if you have any questions, this is a very good time for you to ask your questions. Yeah, or maybe instead of asking questions, you would like to share your insights or your experience. Yeah, please feel free to do so. Okay, please, yeah. Feel free to do so. Yeah, if you would like to ask questions. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm going to ask some questions. Yeah, because we still have 10 minutes left. Then I'm going to ask some questions. Yeah, based on Steven Pinker's and Chomsky's theory. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So again, Pinker is a cognitive psychologist, aside from being linguist, and Chomsky is a linguist. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let me ask one of you. Yeah. I will ask questions about this one, the blueprint of all human languages. So I have shown that this blueprint, for example, can be seen in the fact that languages have subject, object, verb. Yeah, subject, object, verb. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask one of you. Let me ask. I will make sure that I haven't asked. Oh yeah, there's a question here. This is okay. Oh, Miss Nia, yeah, Miss Nia Mauzia asked that it is a very interesting topic to talk because I have some nephews and their and their acquisition of language are slightly different. The youngest one acquire language easily since he got lots of people to. Yes, this is also um, a very good point to observe, Miss Nia. Yeah. So um, research has proven that children uh, who are more exposed to language, uh, they they are more skillful in using language. So as you can see in the case of Jeannie, she was deprived from language exposure since she was 20 months to 13 years old. As a result, she could not use language as fluently as those as children of her age. Yeah. So uh, the other cases of neglect, yeah. So besides Ginny, there were other cases of severe neglection of children, and in all those cases, the children with various ages when they were found, they showed cases of language impairment. So after they had linguistic instructions, after they were rescued, they received language intervention. Yeah, but then um, they still they still show impairments. So although they show progresses in using language, but there were still traces of impairments due to the lifetime neglect and rare to none language exposure that they suffer. Yeah, so um, you can also see this in children have who are socialized more, yeah, with people, yeah, around them. They will be more skillful in using languages. So I read cases, yeah, of modern children who had to live who had to spend their life with their grandmother. So one research showed that a child had difficulty in using and comprehend language because the child was left, yeah, for hours um, with their domestic helper. Yeah, so there was a case of a child who was left for hours, yeah, each day with the domestic helper who also didn't try to engage the child to talk, yeah, and to be exposed to language. Yeah, so instead of talking with the child, the helper would watch uh, synchron, yeah, all the time, yeah. So the child was not exposed to language use, and in the end, the child was deprived the exposure that he or she needed, and then in result, yeah, the child could not use the language as fluently as children of that age. Okay, so I hope that answer the okay, not answering, but I hope that um, yeah, Miss Nia will continue to observe more of the theories, yeah, in the real world. So these theories of universal grammar and the innateness of human language will only be useful for you if you see its application in the daily life. Yeah, so in the future, if you would like to make a research on this for your thesis, yeah, for your final thesis, then you can connect the theories that you receive from classes of Burensi like this, yeah, and then you can apply those theories to the real world situation. And if you do that, then you can make a research that actually are based on the theories and based on the fact in the real world. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think we still have a few minutes left. Yeah. Do you have any? I think we have 3 minutes left. Yeah. Does anyone still have any questions or comments on this? Yeah. I hope that this will be useful for all of you in your future research and in your daily life. Yeah. When because as a linguist, we can help solve problems of languages. Like, for example, in the future, there might be one of you who will work as a language therapist, maybe, yeah, to give therapy to children with language impairment. Yeah, and I will be very happy if one of you do so, yeah, because that's something that you can contribute, yeah, using your knowledge on linguistics. Does anyone still have anything to share or to ask? Yeah. Okay, that's a question. Yeah, sorry, I just saw it. Yeah. Oh, it becomes very large here. Okay, this one. Okay, I'm also curious with what Mr. Pingus thought that language is something instinctively. If it is something instinctive, what is pop up in my mind? It should be something like you do not need to take any effort to acquire language. Okay, it's not happening in Jini's case because she needs someone to teach her. Or maybe there's another definition of instinct itself. Okay, so this this will go back to one of so to explain the question of Miss Nia. So Miss Nia here again. She uh, she asked, yeah, if language is an instinct, yeah, uh, why do we need to make efforts to acquire language? Yeah, why does it take so much effort, yeah, to acquire language or to learn language? For example, in Ginny's case, although according to Pinker's theory, she had instinct of language, but why did she still need somebody to expose her to English, yeah, to teach her English? Okay, so this I will show you one of Pinker's quote that I took last night. Yeah, so here Pinker said that, yeah, this is his direct quote, yeah, that obviously no language is innate, yeah. So the language itself is not innate, yeah. But what is in our gene is the ability to acquire language. So language is not innate, yeah. So language itself, English, Indonesian, French, Malay, they are not innate, yeah. But then the ability to learn language, to acquire language, the talent, the competence to acquire language is innate, yeah. Because the ability to acquire language is innate, then it is easier for humankind to learn language. Yeah, as you can see in Ginny's case, she was deprived of language for years. But then, because of her innate knowledge of language structure, because she was predisposed with innate grammatical knowledge for any language. So it's easier for her to acquire English as compared to the research of Nim Chinsky that you just saw. So Nim Chinsky, the chimpanzee, he was exposed to language since he was born. But then after the end of his life, he only mastered like 100 sign in American Sign Language. Yeah. If you compare this with Jeannie's case, she was deprived. Language can take for around 12 years, but then with language instruction, she showed remarkable development in that she could comprehend grammatical structure of English, although not as much as other children. She could also speak, speak and utter sentences. Yeah. So again, the language like English, French, and Malay, they are not innate. Yeah. No human being is born with English language in their mind or Indonesian language. Yeah. And that's why the human being need exposure of languages. But then each of us is born um, the um, with the ability to acquire, to learn languages. Okay, so that's my response, to Ms. Nia. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Nia. It has been an interesting discussion, and I hope in the future you might want to study more about this, maybe for your thesis, Okay. Okay, I guess this is already 8:40, so thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to discuss about Pinker's theory or Chomsky's theory? Otherwise, I will give back the time and the floor to Ibu Rensi. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. This has been an interesting and engaging discussion. Ibu Rensi, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bu Ika. Thank you very much for the explanation, and thank you for coming and also giving us lecture for 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, that was very generous of you to spend your time preparing for the lecture as well as giving the lecture itself. So thank you, and look forward for more collaboration with you. Yeah, for the students, thank you for coming. Yeah, I will send you some more instructions through our WhatsApp group, especially concerning the midterm tests for next week. Okay, I will take some materials from Bu Ika's lecture as well. So Bu Ika, I hope you don't mind sharing your PowerPoint again, PowerPoint from this week. Yeah. Okay, so before we end the class, I would like to take a picture. So I would like to take some screenshots from today's class. So those who are present up to the very end of the lecture will be noticeable by me, okay? That's good, yeah, because that means you really pay attention to our effort in giving you the best education. Okay, is there anything you would like to say to Bu Ika before we end the class? Anyone? You can also express your gratitude directly.
Thank you very much, Bu Ika. Brandy also.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you sometime soon. Bu Ika, we'll be in touch. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
day.
you, ma'am.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you, ma'am.